Cities Skylines was originally released in 2015, but now it's made its way over to consoles. But does this version end up being a magnificent mayoral experience, or should we just let this city go to rot? Cities Skylines is a city building simulation, similar to the classic SimCity franchise. In the game, you take the role of a mayor in the newly founded city. You start off by picking a plot of land that you want to build on, and then it's up to you in order to build this city up, gain population, and make sure that it's thriving financially. When selecting a plot of land, there is a bit of strategy. You'll have natural resources, and certain ones have more than others, as well as just land to build on, since some will have more water that you'll have to deal with. You can also decide to play the game with unlimited money and just do a sandbox mode if you want to do that. Though doing so, you'll have everything unlocked right from the get-go, but you won't be able to unlock any kind of trophies or achievements in the game. Once the land loads up, it's up to you to start doing the building. There is plenty of tutorials here. You can turn them off if you want to. Basically, you'll start off though by building a road and just a few basic districts, and then as you get more population into your town, you'll hit different milestones, which will unlock more infrastructure, more buildings, and more stuff for you to deal with in general. Thankfully, the game introduces you to these things slowly, so you're not completely overwhelmed by things once you are going through. Though when you hit one of those milestones, it's going to introduce a bunch of new things at once, which could be a tad bit overwhelming if you're not prepared. The game's UI and menu interface, for the most part, was pretty easy to learn. Things are broken up nicely into different categories, whether it be the roads, the districts, utilities, and specialty stuff like police and hospital. It always is pointing you in the direction of new stuff as you unlock it, and since it's slowly introduced, I was able to learn where everything was as I went. Outside of the specialty buildings like your hospital or garbage dumps, your main buildings like residential, business, and industrial, you do by districting. Basically, you lay down a street and you're able to build on either side of the street. It lets you know by having a square grid that represents where you're going to be able to build, and then you just decide if you want to make an area residential or industrial, and you can make it as little or as big as you want it to be. As long as there's road connecting things, you'll be able to put more industry or residential places down. The game then starts to build and fill in these areas automatically for you based on need. So if you have a big population but no jobs, you won't have more people moving into your town until you put more businesses and industrial areas down, and the same goes for if you have plenty of jobs but no one to actually work the jobs. The game is always letting you know when something is awry, with little icons that are going to be popping up all over your city, and the bigger your city gets, the more little icons are going to be all over the place. People have all sorts of needs that you're going to have to worry about, whether or not their house is on fire, people are sick, people have died and no one's come to pick up the body yet, or whatever it may be, and they have levels. They start off with just needing it, but they may get angry, and eventually they're just going to flat out leave. When someone ends up leaving, the area becomes abandoned, and then you'll have to either tear it down, or eventually the game does tear it down automatically and build up, but if you want to make it much more quick, you just tear it down manually yourself with the bulldozer, and there's no penalty for doing it if the place has been abandoned. Because the first few hours were really more of a tutorial than anything else, the difficulty starts to increase when you reach those milestones and have new possible buildings to make. Things won't catch on fire, and criminals won't be running the street until you've unlocked the fire station or unlocked the police station, so you don't have to worry about those things right away. But as soon as those things are possibly introduced, even if you haven't built a fire station yet, you're going to have fire starting to pop up, so you're going to want to try to save that money in order to build those particular buildings. The most frustrating thing, honestly, about the game can be traffic. Learning how traffic patterns work and building the streets up so that you have enough space for everyone to drive around. And even sometimes when you build giant highways for people, they still end up taking the wrong or long ways and end up getting still stuck and backed up, where things end up running out, such as people getting sick and dead bodies piling up to the point that people end up leaving your town because of it. I also had a couple of things where the population ended up kind of stagnating for a bit, even though I was doing overall pretty well financially. The old people got old and ended up dying away, and because of that I took a lot of hits in my population, which the game really didn't end up explaining at any point. There's also a few things like making your districts more specialty districts. For example, industrial areas you can eventually turn into specific industries, like forest or like mining for oil. The game tells you about this a little bit, but it ends up actually being really beneficial if you end up having those resources there, and can really help manage your electrical plants a lot better because of it. A lot of this wasn't an annoyance or anything, it was more of just me eventually learning what to do and what not to do the next city that I ended up building. It took about 4 or 5 attempts at making a city until I felt like I fully had everything understood and was able to start making the metropolis that I really wanted to. As your city builds and you gain more population, you'll also be able to buy more land around your city in order to increase its overall size, which will give you even more natural resources, as well as a plethora of other opportunities to build more city areas. From the technical side of things, the game ran smoothly for the most part. It didn't crash on me, and there really weren't any major technical glitches. It did hesitate a time or two, and it would freeze up for a second or so anytime the autosave kicked in, which is completely understandable. There's also a noticeable texture pop-in. When you zoom out of your city and then zoom back into areas, they get more detail, which is understandable, but for the most part, the game ran pretty darn well. City Skylines is available now on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This particular version costs $39.99, which is the same as the Deluxe Edition online. It features the After Dark expansion, which basically allows you to go into nighttime, which is a really cool effect, though I ended up turning it off as sometimes it made certain areas a little bit more hard to see as I was playing the game. It doesn't include the other expansions that are currently out on PC, involving snow and the more extended Metro experience. And if you're wondering, it does feature a full trophy list including a platinum on the PS4 version. Overall, City Skylines is actually a really fun simulation game that brings a decent amount to the table. I found myself easily getting addicted to it and sunk a lot of hours into it to do this review. The thing is though, if you played a lot of the PC version, you're not going to really get anything new here, at least I don't think, and plus, it doesn't even have all the possible additions, and no mod support will be included in this version. The keyboard and mouse controls will probably always be ideal for a game like this, but I think they actually did a pretty darn good job with the actual controller controls. With everything said though, I'm going to be giving City Skylines an 8 out of 10. But anyway guys, it's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course I hope you enjoyed.